Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. It's still the first day of winter here in Florida. We had a big tornado watch this morning, and one nice thing about having a ficus over a rock like this rock weighs so much, I'm pretty sure if this tree ever blew over, my roof would be off too, which, I don't want to joke about it too much, that could happen in Florida, but usually not in the winter. That would be a summertime thing. But anyhow, it's been a few months since I've done anything with it. And I noticed, I just kind of looked, the wire's been on now for 5 months. I'm going to go ahead and get that off. I'm going to prune it as well, and I'll just let it rest until early spring, and then give it a really hard prune and wire it again. Today it'll just be a light prune and taking the wire off. First thing I remember, somebody asked how long does it take the apex to grow back when I pruned this apex in the last video. I think it was only about a month ago since I did that, and it's got plenty of growth up here. And I guess since I started there, I'll work my way down from there too. As I take this wire off, I'm going to cut some of it. I'm going to unwind some of it. I prefer to unwind, but there's definitely a couple here that are kind of in there. One thing for certain down here in Florida with these ficus trees is get plenty of growth. It's not always going to be in the best spots, but there'll be plenty of growth. Our grocery store down here, they've got these for hedges. Not too long ago I saw where they opened up, they had to cut back where the fire hydrant was. You see all kinds of aerial roots in there. And just wild growth, because they just, they come through with hedge pruners, and I mean, they've got them as hedges, so they just prune them like that. Just all kinds of crazy growth that you can't really see unless you actually get in there, which they got in there because they had to open up the fire hydrants. But see, as I was taking the wire off there, there's two nice, this is smaller branch, had some decent, I got some movement in it now. But these two little spindly branches coming off here, and it had actually some nice ones coming off the bottom that I had to break off. And I'll just prune that back like that, try to create some taper there. There's another, see if that, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. There's right out of the crotch of that branch I was just messing with. But, decent growth, just coming out of a bad spot there. If that energy would go down here where I'd rather have it at, it would have been a lot better. If I decide not to edit all this part out or time-lapse or whatever, it'd be a nice time to just kind of remind you that I'm not claiming to teach anybody anything. I'm not class, just having a little bit of fun. I try to learn what I can learn. I do try to do things somewhat the right way, but I never took any classes on this or anything like that, as I just prefer to figure things out on my own. And sometimes people think there's only one way to do things, when there's actually several ways to do things. I prefer to unwind, and I prefer to try to reuse most of this, but I've got part of this double wrapped here, and it's kind of not really double wrapped, just where I was trying not to cross wires and wire like 3 branches together. I was kind of losing track of what I was doing there, so, and none of this wires, these branches aren't really big enough to where I had like long enough pieces to really save and reuse. Ton of growth growing straight down there. But I'm getting it where I wanted to there too, so. All the wire. Actually, as I've been even just seeing this guy in the yard, I get a lot of extra growth on that branch there. I don't know if it's just from the way it's leaning or what it is. As I was pruning it, I noticed a lot of it seems like really weak growth too. But I'll cut it back. Unless you keep ficus in the tropics, it's hard to describe how these things grow in the winter. I have a lot of questions. Everybody says, you know, like, oh, so in the tropics they don't get a dormant period or whatever. They slow down a lot, but they don't stop altogether. I mean, I've even seen some of the reputable nurseries say, oh, they go winter or they go dormant even in the winter. They don't go completely asleep. They slow down a lot. Whenever I go to, you know, prune it back really hard, probably in late February or something like that. Again, it won't be like explosive growth where you're kind of walking by it day by day going, oh my gosh, look how much this thing's growing. But it'll definitely have more on it than it does now. And so, to me, that's not dormant. I mean, deciduous trees or even evergreens up north or something like that do like no growing over the winter, that's dormant. These guys definitely slow down a lot. All right, just about ready to wrap things up. This area here is kind of bothersome, but that branch is so skinny, I'm just going to leave all that growth there in the hope that as that kind of grows, it'll be really awkward. I do want to get the low growth there. I do want to get that. It's got too much on the end, but if I just kind of let that go wild for the winter, maybe that'll help thicken that branch up a little bit. I do have my two areas of concern, or not really concern, but things I'm going to take care of. I plan on getting this in some kind of a rectangular pot, probably about this wide, maybe about, you know, maybe have about that much more of the rock showing eventually. This rock does, I don't know exactly how long I've had it in this pot, but I have lifted it once. It's kind of already made the pot oblong. I'm not really sure if I can lift it in this pot much more than I already have. Again, I want to get in a rectangular pot, probably about that wide, probably not much wider than that. And I'd like for it, this used to have a straight part going up here, and I chopped that. And that scar is healing really kind of slowly. a little surprising because there is a lot of growth above it. Of course, I haven't let it go really unchecked, but there is plenty of growth above it. I'd like for it to sprout a branch in there or something, but we'll see. And then there's, right here is where I actually had a sacrifice branch growing on. This thing was like really big way up there. That's already kind of healing up. I actually chopped that off after I did this. But I guess that's part of the main trunk there, so it healed up a little bit better than the part did here. I say main trunk, just a thicker part of the trunk. So it's got more growth going all around it. This one only has the growth from here up, where this one has everything else there. So, you can still see where it is. But once those two kind of finish healing up, I may try to do one more raise in this pot. Let's see a little more growth coming straight down here. Take some of that out. But overall, I am liking the way it's turning out.